Okay, I think we'll get started. Welcome, everyone. My name is Judith Ank. I am the president of Beyond Plastics, which is a nationwide environmental research advocacy engagement organization. We're based at Bennington College in Vermont. I was the founder of Beyond Plastics, and before establishing Beyond Plastics, I served as an EPA regional administrator appointed by President Obama. I was in EPA Region 2, and prior to that, I was Deputy Secretary for the Environment in the New York Governor's Office. And I decided to work on plastics because of the incredible environmental and health impact that plastics is having on our world. We've now grown to 8 staff people throughout the country. And it's a real honor to work with my colleague, Dr. Megan Wolf, who wrote the dry cleaner reduction guide. Almost simultaneously, she wrote a similar guide on how to reduce plastics in restaurant settings. So while we do a lot of policy advocacy work, we also try to provide practical information on alternatives to plastics, of which there are many. We work on the plastics issue because it is so cross-cutting. We look at how plastics are manufactured in communities in Louisiana and Texas and Appalachia, and that petrochemical production of plastics is really affecting people's health when you have a concentration of facilities in particular. So we view plastics as an environmental justice issue. We view it as an oceans issue. When plastic gets littered, it goes into rivers and then the ocean, and it's very much a health issue. Microplastics have been found in drinking water, in beer, in honey, in fish, and in the human bloodstream, in human lungs, in the human placenta, in human breast milk. So we have a lot of work to do. And then finally, plastics is a climate change issue. Beyond Plastics published a report last year where we documented that by 2030, there will be more greenhouse gas emissions from the production, use, and disposal of plastics than from coal plants in their entirety in the United States. So there's a lot going on the plastics issue, and we're really thrilled to have experts today talking about how we can reduce our use of plastics in the dry cleaning sector. And that's how we're going to stop plastic pollution everywhere. It's a variety of things. It's advocacy, it's policies, it's business leadership. So I'm really happy to turn this over now to Dr. Megan Wolf. And you'll hear from some fantastic speakers, and we're very grateful to have all of you with us today. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Judith. I'm going to share my screen. Let's see. Here's my presentation. Okay, so welcome everyone. As Judith said, my name is Megan Wolf, and I'm the Policy Director at Beyond Plastics. And many thanks to everyone for coming, and especially in particular to our invited guests, Jenny Nygrosh, Angela Harris, and David Meyer. Now, as many of you know, this summer we put out a guide in the bag for helping dry cleaners to reduce their use of plastic, particularly single-use plastics, which are significantly associated with greenhouse gas emissions, petrochemical overproduction, and litter. And today we're going to take some time to present some of the findings of the guide and hear from some participants in the dry cleaning industry who have already been involved in reducing plastics. We're going to hear about their businesses, their motivation, their successes, and some of the challenges that they've faced in making this kind of change. We're hoping that many of you in the audience are associated with the dry cleaning industry and that you'll be interested in hearing about their experiences and asking questions of your own. If you do have a role in the industry, please use the chat box to introduce yourself and indicate where your business is located. And also use that chat box to ask questions later on. We're going to do a lot of Q&A and discussion in the latter part of the session, and we're going to want to hear from you. As mentioned, we are recording this, so you'll be able to refer back to it. As a part of presenting online on Zoom, I've really discovered that it's nice to have as many people in the audience as are comfortable turn on their videos. It kind of builds a sense of solidarity, and it's great to be able to see the audience. So if you're comfortable also, please turn on your video. So we'll start out with some findings from the guide. We know, as Judith said, that plastic pollution is a significant problem. And I won't belabor too many of the details here, but between 8 and 15 tons of plastic enter the oceans each year, which is the equivalent of a garbage truck every minute. Plastic, as Judith said, is also a climate problem. Plastic production, use, and disposal in the US contributed to 464 billion pounds of greenhouse gas emissions in 2020, which was the equivalent of 116 average coal-fired power plants. Now, dry cleaners utilize more than 300 million pounds of low-density polyethylene film each year, which you'll recognize as polybags. And none of this plastic film is reusable. Only 4% of all the film plastic is recycled. And they tend to be a conspicuous environmental problem. On land, we know they blow and they tangle. And in marine environments, they can be a source of entanglement for animals, and also the kind of plastic that is most easily mistaken for food. For animals like turtles, they look a lot like jellyfish, and these kinds of marine creatures will go directly for them. If they mistake plastic for prey, a lot of them accumulate enough in their stomachs that they can die of starvation. Now, the purpose of this guide is not to traumatize or guilt trip business owners, but we just wanted to demonstrate that there are actually easy ways to move away from polybags and a lot of financial benefits for doing so. So the guide will walk you through it, but I'll give you a couple thumbnails here. First, we understand that the crisply pressed garment hanging in that smooth plastic bag is pretty much synonymous with a job well done, and also that the use of those bags is a way for bundling and protecting finished garments. So our primary recommendation, if I can get my slide to forward, there we go, is to switch from a disposable to a reusable bag. Reusable garment bags are reliable, they're durable, they're inexpensive, and they're already available on the markets. Our invited guests are going to tell you about them. Now, when it comes to avoiding or reducing single-use plastics, reuse is the environmental gold standard. At Beyond Plastics, we're always recommending non-plastic reusables, whether that be for food and beverage wares or reusable bags. But we also understand that due to price point and other considerations, it's not always feasible. It would be wonderful if 100% cotton bags became the industry standard. But the most important thing to emphasize here is the culture of reuse and reusing items. One of the most interesting findings in researching this guide was actually how many consumer trends are already moving toward reuse and growing in favor of cleaners who decide they want to make the switch. The market for reusable bags themselves really shows this off. It's huge, it's growing. In 2018, the global reusable market bag share was worth $390 million, and it's expected to reach a whopping $480 million by the end of 2025. This growth was not particularly slowed by COVID. So this is where a lot of industries are heading. People are getting into the habit of running errands with reusable bags, and dry cleaning is really of a piece with those errands. This is part of a general trend that I noticed of consumer preferences towards sustainability in general. In the fall of 2021, 85% of people polled indicated that they'd shifted their purchasing behavior toward being more sustainable in the past 5 years. And the younger and the more affluent the customer, the more likely this was to be the case. Companies across the economy are catching on. The image on this screen is from a report that was issued by a sustainability consultancy and a Paris-based business school. 97% of the companies surveyed listed sustainability as one of their top 5 priorities, and their reasons for this were enumerated in this graph. For the vast majority, it was because customers want it. 76%, you can see on the top bar, listed an improved reputation as among their reasons. Cost savings is a factor too, and this is true very much in the dry cleaning industry. Poly bags and the items that go with them, such as twist ties, cost money, which is literally going into the garbage can, and incidentally, possibly annoying customers with clutter and waste on the way. So think of it this way. Let's say a mid-sized dry cleaner has around 800 customers and typically uses about 25 rolls of polybag plastic per month. At a cost of $45 a roll, you've got $1,125 a month. And with a 12-month year, that comes to $13,500. So we'll imagine that this cleaner has decided to go all in and give away branded reusable bags, though maybe as a promo. It might offer 2 bags per customer so that one can be at home and the other is in the store. And those bags may cost about $5 per unit, so $10 a customer. Now, if you have maybe 800 customers, you're looking at $8,000 a year. And that means that in your first year savings, because we should just put a time period on this and a year is reasonable in economic problems, you're already looking at a savings of potentially $5,500 a year, 40% savings. So that's pretty significant, and it's good news both for business and for the environment. Now, another option is simply to eliminate the poly bags altogether. And some customers are quite happy with no bags at all, and some, as you'll hear from our speakers, are already asking for this. So cleaners might be reluctant to eliminate those plastic bags, but they could also just make them optional. They can post signs that say, request no plastic, and we'll happily hang your clothes without plastic wrap. Or they could offer the bag for a small fee, say between 10 and 20 cents, which has the advantage of disrupting the habit that a plastic bag is always automatically given at the point of sale. And lastly, we recommend that businesses that have reduced or eliminated single-use plastic take steps to let everybody know. The guide will walk you through several options, but the top ones are posting signage prominently in the store and also using social media. As our guest David Meyer is going to tell you, the younger customers who use social media are the most are also the ones who are going to tend to be most sustainability conscious. Reaching them on Twitter and Facebook, and especially by setting up a profile on Yelp, can really boost awareness. And those same social media users are also really likely to post reviews, which can be a great tool for promoting business. So if you haven't already downloaded the guide, you can get it using this QR code or this super old-fashioned URL. You go to our website, beyondplastics.org/dry cleaner guide. You can get the guide, and we'll also send out the guide as a part of our follow-up email, or at least we'll send out the link to the guide. So I can stop sharing screen here. And now I want to introduce you to our speakers. Our first speaker is Jenny Nygrosh. Jenny Nygrosh is the founder and owner of the Green Carmento, which is a reusable dry cleaning bag that's mentioned in the guide. She's worked in fashion, automotive, and movie industries. And for 7 years before launching the Green Carmento, she was an executive for Warner Brothers Records strategic marketing and advertising departments. Frustrated with the amount of plastic that she was bringing home with her dry cleaning, Jenny decided to leave Hollywood behind and launch her patented all-in-one reusable Garmento dry cleaning bag. Her trademark mantra is "Be fantastic, use less plastic." Jenny notes that the Green Garmento bags are offered in 28 countries so far and have kept an estimated 4 million pounds of plastic from entering the ecosystem. She is the youngest of 7 siblings. So welcome, Jenny. Please tell us a little bit about your business and about this reusable bag that you've been marketing.
Hi, everyone. And Dr. Megan and Judith, thank you so much for inviting us first. It's been really fun helping just lend a little bit of information for your guide. We've learned a lot along the way. So I just really want to thank you guys for finding us. It was very organic. I did not reach out to you. You found us online, which we love. And just being a part of this, you know, we've been, and I'll tell my story, a little bit about my journey. I think almost everybody in this room knows me and where I come from, but happy to tell a little bit about myself. But I'm just very glad that people like you and your organization are finding us and finding other companies that are doing their part to educate different sectors to really embrace reusable or just to help eliminate plastic. So thank you. And thanks everybody for joining. I know it's not easy in the middle of the day. I see a lot of familiar names here. I'd love to see your faces. Feel free to throw your video on, but I'm really, really very thrilled that you're all here. And so I started my business, the Green Garmento, in 2008. as Megan mentioned, I was working for Warner Records, had a pretty cushy job, got to hang out with rock stars and do really fun things. And I was a newlywed, and I think you all know, most of you know my husband. He's 6'4" and 200 too many pounds, and we were in our closet, this weird long old closet, and one morning and struggling to find clothes for we're rushing out the door to get to meetings, and we're like naked and sweating in the closet, like towel on and trying to rip the plastic off. Not at all the sexy kind of thing you're thinking with a newlywed. It was disastrous. And it was happening a lot. And I was like, you know what, this is a lot of clutter. I'd never lived with anyone. I didn't know how much dry cleaning plastic could be evident in a closet. And I realized just the two of us were producing a lot of this closet clutter. So I started to just organically look for alternatives. And I found one. I found a cotton bag that somebody was trying to create for the marketplace. We bought a couple and brought them to different dry cleaners, and immediately it was not embraced. They were like, it's too heavy, it's too expensive, it's not going to work with operations. So we decided to create our own version that would work with the help of dry cleaners. We actually met with quite a few cleaners in Los Angeles and created what we thought would really work to help be implemented, because we understand the complexities of dry cleaners. You know, there's no two systems are the same, no two operations are the same. It's like a thumbprint. Everybody has their own thumbprint in the industry, and and it's not as easy as everyone says. And I know there's so much pressure of people saying, just get rid of the plastic, but you need it. And I understand you need to cover your clothes, you need to protect them, you need to, bag your orders together, you need to keep track. There's a lot to it. So we try to be mindful of that, to really try to help learn and then continue to educate. So we launched at a trade show in LA, in Long Beach. I'm sure a lot of you have been to it. And we immediately sold out of what we had coming in, which was like 3,000 bags. And so I thought, okay, this is cool. This is a great opportunity for people to really embrace this. And so we decided to kind of just jump in and just spend all of our money in 2008, because what else do you do in 2008? You're going to lose it anyway. So we decided to just throw it in, and I know you're all laughing, I can tell. So it's been a journey. It has not been easy. It's been a really difficult road for not just us, but for dry cleaners who want to do this, to be able to embrace it. So that's been part of our challenge, is to help educate and find the right people to help us to also educate. And then we're also working, there's other factors at play. People like to have automatic baggers, and there's different things there that make it a little bit more difficult to embrace. So we understand that. We are not here today to sell you bags. I don't need to do that. I don't need to bum a lot of people out. You're here to learn. We're here to try to teach you and learn from you what your objections are or what your roadblocks are, so that we can help you and learn together how to implement. I'm happy to hand the baton over to Angela. Angela was a very valued customer of ours. She ran steamer cleaners here in LA for 12 years. She was one of our first customers who really implemented the bags. And we love working with Angela, because she was doing it for all the right reasons, to help the dry cleaner with their branding and their messaging, but also from an environmental standpoint. And I'll let her speak to that. But when Ange left the business to move back to her home state, and I think you'll introduce Angela, right?
Yeah,
I'll let you do that. But that's when Angela came aboard. So anyway, I think if I introduce myself enough. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you for that. I did have just a couple questions. What year did you launch the Green Garmento?
It was 2008 was when we went to the Long Beach Convention Center. It was that summer. And then the big dry cleaning convention is called the Clean Show. And that was in 2009. And that's when we did a broader launch. But our first press release went out around the end of 2008. And we got a lot of coverage, and from there, we were on Shark Tank, and we've had a lot of national and international exposure. We have placement in TVs and movies and all that kind of stuff. So it was
Hmm.
started in the end of 2008.
Great. And if you could just describe the bag itself, like what does it mean to have a reusable garment bag that's specific to dry cleaners?
So, it's funny because Judith and I were talking before the call started, there's other materials out there. There's jute, there's cotton, there's bamboo, there's all kinds of different fabrics that we actually did look into, and we are going to continue to look into. But we wanted something that was already recognized as reusable. First of all, that was my first thought. And I literally went to my Trader Joe's bag and I wanted to see what it was made of, which is non-woven polypropylene. And it turns out that it is breathable, it's washable, it's slightly water resistant. It's not, you don't throw it out in the rain, but it'll help protect garments really well. And in hot climates, it also helps, since it's breathable, the clothes there's no sweating like there would be inside the plastic bag. And also with plastic, we've learned that that does trap chemicals. There's, if there is chemicals in the clothing, it can discolor the clothing. It affect the longevity of the garments and the textile. So, and also it's dangerous for human consumption. So we thought this was a great option, and it was really not that expensive to create compared to other things. And also as far as cotton goes, it takes a lot of water to create cotton products, like thousands of gallons of water, and coming from a drought state, I did not want to have that kind of expenditure either for natural resources. And the other thing with our non-woven bags is that they take very little water and heat to process at a dry cleaner if they do want to wash them. So that also cuts down a lot of costs for the dry cleaners as well, since that's a huge cost for them.
So how big is the business now?
We have a small crew. We don't have a huge amount of employees. We're pretty lean. We have a warehouse in the Los Angeles area. We now all work remotely. Angela works out of her home in Kansas. I'm in Woodland Hills. But we are in, like we mentioned earlier, 27, 28 countries. We have lots and lots of bags in circulation, and we.
How many is lots, do you think?
It's many thousands of bags. We have some customers that have over 13,000 bags just for one company. So we have lots of bags in circulation. We're proud of it. There's been other companies that have sort of copied us, which is a huge form of flattery, I feel. So other people are doing it, and so it's growing, and I think that the sea change is really evident right now. So we're sort of bracing ourselves for the next wave of what's going to happen in the industry, because I think it really is becoming a consumer driven change. And I think customers are asking for it more and more to use reusables, just like in the grocery.
Can I add something, please?
Sure.
Jenny was very, what's the word I'm looking for? Gracious. She sent me a large amount of bags because I was so impressed when I first saw them. I gave one to each one of our members who attended our conference a few years ago. As well, I had some left over, and believe it or not, every time I have a meeting with a politician, I give them the gift of the bag and explain it to them so that they have a better understanding of what we're trying to accomplish. And that's been a positive thing happening here.
Huh, that's really good. Well, thank you.
Thank you, Sydney.
We'll take the moment now to segue over to our next speaker, Angela Harris. Angela had a rewarding career in the medical sales industry until she was enticed by a dear friend to join the garment care industry as the general manager for the LA steamer cleaners. This was a large dry cleaning operation that catered to affluent and often demanding clientele. And as its leader, Angela learned the importance of customer relations, quality products, and cutting-edge technology. In 2010, she began to use reusable garment bags in Steamer's operation and noticed a steady growth in order sizes and new customer acquisitions. In 2014, Angela left Steamers to move back to her hometown of Overland Park, Kansas, at which point she accepted a position as national sales manager for the Green Garmento. So thank you for joining us, Angela. And can you tell us a little bit about your role and your experience with reusable bags in this industry?
Thank you, Megan. I come at this a little bit differently in that, as you explained, natural transition from the medical industry to dry cleaning. But no, I had dear friends that were starting a dry cleaners that was more innovative, cutting edge, and definitely an attention to environmental practices, which was newer in the industry. And as every dry cleaner attests, anything that we can do to provide something new to our customers is an asset. So yes, I was the general manager for steamer cleaners for quite some time and had the honor of, I believe it was around 2010 that was introduced to Jenny and Rick after they had introduced their green Garmento bags. And we were one of the first businesses to onboard it in a larger way into the business, and was quite successful. I would say by the time I left, we had at least a 30 to 35% implementation rate at that point, and was continuing to grow. And we had both retail operations as well as delivery operations. The delivery side was excellent because we were already offering, in essence, a reusable bag, the laundry bags. Laundry counter valet style bags. And so this was even a better mesh because it became an all-in-one bag that we could offer our clientele, both on the front end as well as the back end, to help reduce down, plastic usage. And so anyway, I mean, we had great success with it. I would say, one of the successes that we saw that with using reusables from single-use poly was, or even on the delivery routes and specifically with probably about a 15% increase in volume on our sales, just because basically the bigger bag equaled bigger orders. So it was a nice surprise, but in general, I would say that I was surprised by the uptick. I actually had customers come to me to start with. I really didn't know much about reusable bags, and then reached out to Jenny to find out, and looked at several bags and chose, like I mentioned, ultimately the green Garmento bag to onboard. But it was a very positive experience. And I think, probably is continuing to grow. I have left that business for quite some time now. And on my move back to Kansas City, I had a call in the car from one Jenny Nygrosh, who, was wondering, I guess she had found out that I had left and was wondering what my next path was. And, we spoke. I had a very long drive, so we spoke for quite some time. And I was very passionate about the cause of switching from, single-use poly to reusables and reusables in general. So it was kind of a natural transition for me to get involved with the green Garmento, and coming from a sales background in the past, it was an easy mesh. I used to do some training as well, which I find comes in handy with dry cleaners. Because I do find that, it's become easier because it's not such a novel idea as it was in the beginning. It comes in handy to work with the teams within the dry cleaners to find solutions in implementing the reusable bags into their business model.
What do you tell people about why they should use a reusable bag? Or if you have a new person who you're talking to, what would you say to them, using your sales training in order to get them interested?
Well, it's interesting. I would say in the beginning, it was probably more of a novel conversation because people were not aware. But now with grocery reusable bags being so popular, it's kind of an easy transition for people to comprehend how reusable bags may apply in the dry cleaning industry. And, first of all, I try to do a little research with the company, see what what size of the cleaners it is, like perhaps in talking with them, find out what's important to them with and their customer demographic, because that can make a difference as well. For instance, if there's a strong population of families as the customer base, what a wonderful option to be able to offer a reusable bag versus the, single-use poly bags, which are a potential hazard. in the home, especially with small children.
Mhm.
So, and that actually, in fact, with the dry cleaners, it helped us to develop another program where we actually would do a curbside service for the customers that were families, perhaps they had a sleeping child in the back seat, et cetera. So there were different ways to position the reusables to benefit the customer base. So I think a lot of it has to do again with just talking individually with the customers and finding out what's important to them and figuring out how best to position it. But I would say it's no longer a novel idea. I think most customers embrace it because they already know about reusable grocery bags.
Thank you.
I
I
hope
think
that answers
we can move on to David Meyer. So David Meyer is the owner of Elite Cleaners in Phoenix, Arizona, and he's been involved with the complexities of textile care his entire adult life. He started as a designer of women's dresses and textiles in the fashion industry in New York and entered the dry cleaning industry in 1981, coming to operate facilities in New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. After selling his business, he became a supplier to the garment care industry for 10 years until, in 2008, he transplanted to the Southwest to open his current location. David is a member of Methods for Management, and he's managed to keep his business thriving even during economic downturns and the pandemic. His expertise has led to an invitation to join America's Best Cleaners. So thank you for being here, David. Please tell us a little bit about the company that you're running now and how you've incorporated reusables into your business model and what's happened for you with that.
Well, thank you for including me in this panel. What for me, I'm always trying to investigate products that are new at all the trade shows that I go to, and I'll scour every aisle looking for that one little nugget. And when I discovered the green garmento, it was a very exciting moment for me because it was the first time that I could really produce something and show my customers something that no one else had and that I thought was a tremendous value for goodwill. To me, if I categorize my expense on the green garmento or reusables, it is in the goodwill category. It's really a tremendous statement that I'm trying to be part of the community. My business specifically, again, I kind of built the Field of Dreams. I have a business that is above average in prices and significantly above average in quality. That's a very thin market, and it worked. People like coming to my business because we always meet their or exceed their expectations. And again, we're putting ourselves our foot forward, and I've understood that to be able to grow in this business, I need to attract the 19 to the 39-year-olds because the generation that I'm part of is retiring. They're not doing as much cleaning, and the younger people are my source of growth. And they're asking. It was actually a problem for me emotionally because they were asking about how green I am and what I'm doing, and I'm at that time was using a dry cleaning machine using PERC, and it was too big an investment to change that. So I changed everything else that I could, so I would look as green as possible. And we just actually were able to make the complete transition. We switched to a solvent that is a organic based, biodegradable, sustainable product. But again, back to the front of the store, we're able to demonstrate that to the customers using the green garmento bags. They do help in a lot of ways that are intangible, but they really do help. We do a lot of delivery, and one time customer gave notice they would be away from home and not to make the delivery. And as things happened, the delivery was made. And of course, that was the weekend that it rained. And so the clothing was outside in the rain. And I got this call on Sunday, and I stopped what I was doing and ran over to the customer's house. And although the clothing was outside, but they were delivered with green garmentos. What could have been a huge financial loss for me was just get them back to the store, open up the bags. The majority of the clothes were dry. So every time there's a little something else that the green garmento or a reusable bag helps a lot. I also mentioned that we're moving into a lot of wash and fold, moving away from people. Well, a lot of the younger people, we sell them time. They don't want to do their own laundry. And when I give them back their laundry folded up real nice, but in a gym bag style locker bag, my name is on the bag, and it's not just thrown away. And many times when I'll go to, I do a lot of business with apartment houses. I'll go to the apartment houses and I'll see my bags being used for whatever other purpose, but it's got my name on it. So back to the whole purpose of using a recyclable product is I don't look at the cost savings, I look at the goodwill. I think the goodwill supersedes. I mean, yes, your numbers work great. And by the way, this meeting is doing a lot for me to rethink again. You know, sometimes, like I said, I was working on took 3 years to get that dry cleaning machine. So now I'm going back to the little details again. And I'm going to be placing some orders with the Green Garmento for more recyclable products again, because I just want to feel good about what I do. You know, I want to be a good neighbor. And like you said, I don't want to see the plastic all over the garbage and backyards blown away. And another thing, when I do go to an apartment house, I mentioned to them that the Green Garmento is an option for them, and they like that because then there's less waste stream. There's less plastic going into their garbage, and they like the reusable bags.
Can I add something to what you just said, if you don't
Sure.
mind? I came across Green Earth had one of their tables, a bunch of I guess small, not small, but hand with a pole, and I think you make it, Jenny.
Yeah,
You made it for them. They are unbelievable, and I recommend it to all our members that they purchase these things and give them as gifts at Christmas time to their customers. And the beauty of that is you could have your name on either both sides or whatever side you want, and these people take it to the grocery store, and everyone there at the checkout lines can see these bags, and you're getting noticed, with your name on it. And I think they're great. I personally, I've been using them for years since I do the shopping, but they are really great things to have.
thank
Thank
you.
you. Yeah, that brings us to a kind of a question I wanted to ask, and a good point about giving items to customers versus having the customer buy a reusable bag and employ it that way. One of the things that we hear a lot from businesses and merchants that we've talked to about reuse is difficulty with the costs of initiating the process. So if it's a restaurant, the cost of reusable wares is pretty high, just the barrier to entry. And I'm wondering, David and Angela, how you've balanced the cost of purchasing the bags with, do you ask the consumers to pay a part of it? Do you have a deposit system, or do you give them away?
Do you want me to start?
Sure,
Megan?
go ahead.
Well, when we first introduced them, we developed a promotion, buy one, get one. Obviously, that way the customer could have one at home collecting garments and one at the cleaners with their cleaning. So that way we came out at full circle. There really was not much of a pushback on that because the price was less than, we were offering it just a little above our costs. So it was a great way initially to get back some of our costs, earn back our initial costs on the bags while we were introducing. And of course, we had valued customers, regulars, that we would, just give the bags. Again, David talked about goodwill. It's a great way to offer goodwill. Just by providing them something that's a benefit to both sides. So
did it take a bite out of you, or did it pay for itself?
Well, it paid for itself in that we were reducing down the poly or single use poly usage for those customers. I mean, the bags were lasting for years. So you figure even if you had the cost out of pocket for 2 bags at say maybe $10 total, that was your end expense, for a number of years. Whereas if you figure an average customer is using 1 roll of poly a year, and that's ongoing. There's no limit to that. So there was a definite cost savings. Plus we used bags that had a hanger recycling feature as well. So it helped to reinforce our hanger recycling program, which was super. Because we reused as many hangers as we could, as another, sustainability option within the business.
What does a hanger recycling feature on a bag look like? How does that work?
It's just a zip. It made it convenient for the customers to return the.
I can grab one if you'd like.
Sure. Yeah,
Yeah,
please do.
Yeah, it actually has a zipper compartment on the lower front, so it kept the hangers very organized. The customers would place those in, cinch up the bag, bring the order into us, and then all we had to do was unzip that section, remove the hangers, and they were very orderly. In the past, we had customers bring in their hangers in huge bags, wadded up, and usually it was me at the end of the day instead of, having overtime for another individual trying to untangle all of the hangers and, put them into reuse.
Okay, so that
Right.
afforded extra savings right there.
Exactly.
Okay.
So this is the bag we did for Delta at the bottom. Here, I'll stand. There's a little, this is the zipper pouch she's talking about. If you can see it, it says return your hangers here. And they
Yeah.
flip right in the side so that they don't puncture the clothing and they stay together. So because hangers are really expensive and people bend them and mangle them, it's a disaster to try to unfurl them. So they stay together inside this little compartment and then they come right out.
Oh, that's great. So David, how did you deal with the upfront costs of moving into reusables? Did you absorb it yourself, or did you distribute it across customers, have people make a deposit? How have you dealt with it?
We kind of winged it, and we tried all various forms of either charging for it or promotions. And then I quickly learned that an average customer of mine is worth between $1,500 and $2,000 a year, and giving them a $10 product for free is a lot easier for customer retention. So I focus it as a goodwill, and the value of goodwill to me is amazing. So they really feel like they're getting a present, and in truth, it's benefiting me along the way. So it's now we just give them away, and they love it. I mentioned I had an issue with an apartment house, and I had to go to the manager. And part of my trying to make this person happy again is, oh, and by the way, I have this green Garmento or recyclable bag, and since she's going to be a customer, I'd like to give you these. And her smile went from ear to ear like a Cheshire cat. So it's, for me, I categorize it under goodwill, and I give them for free.
Yeah. So I'd like to invite the audience, anybody who has a question or a comment, you can go ahead and raise your physical hand if you have your camera on, or your digital hand if you don't, or place your question in the chat box and we'll see it that way. Sydney.
Yeah, I did put it in the chat box, but I think it's important because you touched on it earlier about the microplastics. I just don't know if you're aware of it, but Green Earth has developed technology. It came out last year. We had Tim Maxwell at our conference, and some politicians actually attended to listen to what they had done. I know that they were being tested in California primarily, and he's going to be reporting at our conference in November. And I'm pretty sure that they're having tremendous success with removing the microplastics before the wastewater is going down either from a dry cleaner or laundry. So I think that's something to look forward to.
Is that a filter?
I'm not sure. I believe it's some kind of filtration, but the thing is not cheap as far as I know. So if for household use, it's probably too expensive. But for a commercial use, I think it makes sense.
Mm-hmm. So I wanted to ask a little bit about the balkers and the doubting Thomases. Have you had customers, any of the three of you, who have pushed back against this product? And if you have, how did you deal with those interactions?
Everyone that reaches out to us is interested. I don't think anyone's reaching out to us to complain. I think that the industry as a whole wants to make a change. I'm seeing that clearly today. And I'm seeing it just in my daily life since we started. I think people want to do the right thing. So if the pushback is coming, it's simply because it's too difficult to implement. And that's where, I feel like I'm falling short. I need to work more with the auto bagger companies, and maybe, we're trying to figure out how to really we offer a mentor program where we'll connect one dry cleaner that runs a similar operation with another one to help them do that. David's been a huge help with that. He will talk to dry cleaners. I have somebody in Boston that will do it. I've got people in LA that will do it. It's a close knit community, and dry cleaners are friends, and everyone wants to share and help each other. It's not, no one's competing, and it's not, everyone wants to help everyone do the right thing. So pushback is not coming from a personal place. I don't think anybody loves plastic. I think people love systems, and we are dealing with an immaculate industry. This is about putting your best foot forward, and your work has to be pristine, and your presentation has to be pristine. And that is a very critical part of this business model across the board. So if it is a disruptive technology, which reusable bags are, we have to find a way that is going to make it work for those cleaners. And my heart goes out. I get it. It's really easy for me to sit here as a consumer and say, well, you do it, you make the change. It's not that easy. There's machinery involved. There's all different kinds of automation and computers and software changes and hardware changes that have to be done. So to me, the pushback is not coming, like I said, it is not coming from a place of loving plastic. It's coming from a place of loving systems. And having that be correct. So that's where I think we need to really create this community to help each other, because the change is coming. So we have to have everyone really be on the ready for it.
Yeah.
Can I jump in?
Go ahead. I can add to that if you'd like.
Sure, you, Sydney, and then David. Yeah.
The industry has lost over 30% since COVID. And I'll tell you something, it's probably been a positive experience, because of the fact that most of these ones that closed up and went bankrupt were really operating poorly. They weren't operating efficiently. They weren't operating environmentally. And it's been good for the balance of us who really do care, and we've been forced now to raise our prices in order to exist. And by doing, and customers expect it now. And by doing that, it allows us to provide a high quality or a better quality service and garment, and the green garmental just falls right into place with it. I know it's difficult for some major companies who have got automation in their plant, but that's something that they're going to have to look at.
David, what were you going to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention, the only pushback I get is on poly. I've never had anybody unhappy. They're thrilled to use the recyclable bags, and specifically the green garmento. And by the way, I'm going to put a little positive comment. I've seen other bags; they don't last as long. We've been using the product now since 2010, and we had less than 20 bags fail in that entire period of time. And another advantage of using these bags is we use two-piece orders. So we can put 3 two-piece orders in a green garmento bag, which makes the retrieval off the conveyor much faster, less chance of grabbing an order that's wrong because they're all contained in one bag. So yeah, but as far as pushback, no, and I would have lost. I can guarantee my top 10% customers are the primary users of the green garmento. And if I stopped using them, I would lose the customer. There's no doubt in my mind.
Yeah, you said something to me as we were preparing about how some of your higher end customers would actually leave if you started using plastic again, which kind of surprised me and impressed me. I'm curious about what kinds of comments you hear about the poly bags themselves. What do the customers say when they say that they don't like them?
Jenny said it 100%. The pile of plastic on the floor. My fiance, I don't, she doesn't pay for her cleaning, but I wouldn't dare bring her anything black than plastic. It's all green garmento, and you know what? She feels proud. I have to say, my fiance is an activist, and she's proud of what I do. You know, she's proud of when I tell her about what we're trying to do to become environmentally friendly. And so it's the pile of plastic on the floor that people don't like. I've never been pushed back on green garmento. And again, I'm inspired by this, where I'm going to be putting some campaigns out, and Angela, I'll be placing some more orders with you later today.
I see we have a question in the audience from Melody Viteri. Melody, do you want to
Hi.
unmute?
Yeah. So I want to say I have two questions, and these come from a consumer standpoint of view. I go to my local dry cleaners and I bring back the hangers. So my first question is, what purpose does the paper that wraps around the metal hanger serve, other than maybe advertising space? I really don't know what that's there for. And my second question is, because I'm going to bring this up to my local cleaner, the alternative of a reusable bag. When the bag needs to be clean, is that an additional service that you pay for at the cleaners, or is that something that I need to do if I were to wash my clothes and my laundry and do my laundry at home and I bring it clean? How does that work?
I think everyone does it differently. David, how do you handle when a bag needs to be, I don't know about the paper, and you can answer that. I think that's just a visual. I don't handle hangers, but David, do you want to take that one?
Oh, sure. We maintain the bags for the customers. And if they are soiled, we'll wash them. They wash really easy. Like you said, they're a short wash, hang it to dry. So there's very little energy used. But you want to keep, oh, and by the way, back to another point, it's kind of peripheral to this. We make sure that the customer knows that their bag stays their bag. So it's not like something that goes into the mix and arbitrarily goes back to a different customer. We make sure that their name is attached to their bag, so they're getting their same bag back again. They like that. And, we wash them as needed. It's not a big deal at all. There's no
And
charge.
do you charge them? Do you charge them when they ask you to wash the bags, or you make that's just, no, you just do it?
We just do it.
Melody,
Why
does
would
that
you-
help?
Yep, that answers the question about cleaning. But does anybody know? Thank you, David, for that. But does anybody know what's the purpose of the paper around the hanger?
Are you talking about like a paper garment cover?
No, she means the
Cape
paper that's
hanger.
on
The
the
cape
hanger
hanger.
that says,
The
"We love
cape.
our customer."
Okay,
I think it's primarily for advertisement. They had the paper cover that was to protect against dust getting in through the plastic.
exactly.
But she means the paper on
No,
the hanger that
The
comes
paper
off.
on the hanger is strictly cosmetic. Many times it's a design heart or something, or in my case, sometimes I'll brand it. My name is on the paper.
So here's a question that's been coming up at the margins of this conversation about labor and sorting. I know from my research and talking to the three of you guests that the poly bag machine does a lot of the extra labor in sorting out the clothes and then sheathing them kind of all in one motion, and that it's very expensive on the front end, but then is at least advertised as a labor-saving device for many cleaners who use them, and that often cleaners will invest a lot of money in that. What is the trade-off if they switch to it sounds like with the reusables, they need to be hand packed and handled a little bit more often. So how do the cleaners balance those costs? Does it pan out in the end? Do they push back about, I just invested in this poly bag machine? How does that work?
David, you're probably a good person to handle
I was
that.
going to say, if you think about if you're using a manual bagging, you have to keep pulling down poly, ripping it, all that. With we use the green garmento, we'll stage it, like I mentioned. For convenience, we do 2-piece orders. But we can take 3 orders and put it into one green garmento. So there's really not a heck of a lot of extra labor involved. As a matter of fact, you just have to stick it in the bag, pull the zipper down. So in truth, if you're doing a manual bagging versus green garmento, I would say actually the labor is lower on a green garmento.
You're
So
right
is this
on.
like, it sounds like a John Henry versus the steam engine kind of a system, where the John Henry side actually has a hidden advantage then because of the different sizing of this product.
Yeah, well, again, with the green garmento, it can take different size clothing, depending. We have 2 different size bags, but we can, like I said, we do 2-piece orders. So if I put 3 orders in one bag, it just You got to just put them in the bag, pull the zipper down, and also when there's no staple used because we take the bag, the tags, and just stick them in the pocket of the gringo mento has a pocket on the end. So I could probably, as we're talking, I could come up with, well, I'm not going to buy staples, the extra motion of the person's hand, which they do get that energy, absorbed in their hand from stapling. So there's a lot of hidden, quiet things that the reusable bag allows for the ergonomics of the packing process.
Kermit, does any of your clients have any problem with it?
You're muted, Kermit.
There we go.
Oh, there's feedback on the line. I'm afraid we're not able to hear you. If you want to type in the chat box, we can read out your answer, Kermit. In the meantime, I was also interested in positioning. As I was doing the research on this guide and I started reading about reusable bags, I happened to walk into my own local dry cleaner and saw them hanging there. And I never would have noticed before. It wasn't something that I, would have kept an eye out. I thought, wow, this has actually penetrated the market right here to my own town in the Hudson Valley. That's kind of interesting. But the fact that it never would have jumped out at me before that actually kind of stands out to me. And I'm wondering what you do to promote this product, to let customers know that it exists and that it's worth their while.
Well, back in my experience, which is, a while back, but we used to actually position the reusable bags on the front conveyor facing the lobby. It really helped to automatically bring to the customer's attention that, they would ask us, oh, what are the green bags for? And it started the conversation and then it snowballed from there. So that was pretty significant. We also did a lot of training with our customer service staff and actually had team building exercises where we would pit one team against another team to see who could sell or introduce the most reusable bags on their shift. And so like I said, it was, we would usually treat them to a lunch or, whatever prize, might have been involved, for their successes. So it was team building on that end, as well as a great way to introduce to our customers. So.
Yeah, we have a customer in LA with multiple locations. They've got over, 14,000 bags in distribution. He would give $1 for every customer service for every bag that they sold. Basically, he would give them $1. So by the end of the week, they would have a big bonuses because that's a lot of money. And it didn't cost him anything. He was getting a little bit of extra money because he was buying them and, they were under $5 because he was getting so many of them. And then he was able to give a CSR $1 each. And that was a great way for them so that every single person that came to the counter, they would say, hey, do you know about a reusable bag system? And then, we do the best we can too, give them posters and signage and all that good stuff and shout out on social media. And, we do our best to help as well get the words out. And Kermit wrote some interesting things, I think. And David, you have an auto bagger. Can I read Kermit's?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, so Kermit, thank you, Kermit. You wrote, large operators save substantial money with auto baggers and no shoulder strains. Many do offer reusables for customers who request them. And the auto baggers also measure the needed length of poly, reducing waste using pre-cut poly. And David, I was asking you about that too. Do you want to just speak to that a little bit? Do you find that you do have an auto bagger as well? Do you find that it does save you on poly as well?
No, because when I was doing manual bagging, which I still do a small amount, we used a very thin gauge plastic. So plastic is sold by the pound. So if you get thinner plastic, you get twice the amount of bags. With the auto bagger, it's a very thick plastic. So I'm using more poundage with the auto bagger than I did before because it's twice the gauge that I need. I mean, I'm not saying the auto bagger isn't good and it doesn't help. But if again, for the goodwill benefit, the more I would go with the green product, I would feel that the goodwill is worth it.
That's good to know. Well, we're at the 3 o'clock mark, at least on the East Coast, which means
Mhm.
that we've come to the end of our time. I think it's really remarkable in this case. We most of the time when we're having the reuse conversation, really across sectors, we talk to a lot of people about the need to change habits and promote and hold people's hands and really lead them toward change because habits are difficult to change. And the structure of the market often makes it very difficult to get away from existing single-use products. But in this case, it actually sounds like you guys are the exception that proves the rule, which is that you have an item that customers are already gravitating toward, which is really good news. We don't get a lot of good news in the world of plastic pollution. So I'll give you a pat on the back for that. Thank you very, very much, all of you who attended today, and especially our presenters here who are discussants, who all have incredibly busy businesses and who took time out of their day to spend with us. So Jenny, thank you. David, thank you. And Angela, thank you so much. We'll be in touch, I hope, and we'll send out a follow-up email with the recording of this session. So have a
Thank
good
you.
day, everyone.
Thank you for having us. If anyone needs anything, we're happy to help.